What's going on, everyone? Philly Insider. Big win today. Castellanos walks it off in a game that, honestly, I didn't think they were going to pull through in with the way it was going. I was like, the offense is lackluster. It's been lackluster the whole week. But they find a way, Drew. They win this baseball game. How are we feeling after a walk-off win? First one of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think nobody needed it more than the guy that hit it. So, I mean, that's
Ain't that the truth?
really good to see. I mean, it's a huge win because you got Wheeler going tomorrow. You got a chance to win the series against a team that was red hot coming in. So, I mean, it's exactly what you need. The bullpen was dynamite today, as you would expect, and they only get a boost with Kirkering back tomorrow. So, love to see it.
That's a great point. Kirkering coming back looked awesome in every single rehab performance he had. Encouraging to see that. And he's going to be absolutely fine. I think he's going to rejoin the bullpen and honestly pitch pretty similarly to like what we expect him to. I'm excited to see him. But talking about the game today, man, I mean, just to see them battle that way, that's the team we saw last year. And honestly, there was a number of times this past week with the offense swinging the way it was, where I just felt like they didn't battle enough. And too many wasted opportunities, just too many bad at-bats throughout the week, even a lot today. But they find a way, man. And that's all that matters is you get one in the W column. You win two of the first three games in this series. Like you said, you set yourself up for a chance at the series win tomorrow afternoon. And you're now 8-7. So you're back over 500. That's good to see. And like you said, the Pirates have been really, really solid so far to start this year. Obviously, we know they started out well last year too. But I don't know. I mean, from year to year, obviously they added some guys, but you're also going to see development from some of those guys. So I think the Pirates are a little bit better this year. I don't think it's a complete fluke that they're starting out hot. And I think he just beat a good baseball team 2 out of 3 games to start the series. So I feel very good. I don't know where you want to start on specifics with the game, individual performances, but we'll talk about the whole week kind of after this game as well. But yeah, I mean, this was all around, not the prettiest game, but
yeah,
also a team win at the end of the day too. You needed everyone to make this happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, you need every single guy on the roster in a game like this because you start out with the I guess what you call the B lineup being like the guys off the bench, most of them, and the late innings, the guys that are normally starting come in and you pretty much burn the entire bench. So, I mean, it's a huge team win, and I'm sure it's going to boost the morale of not only Castellanos but the entire team going into tomorrow. And hopefully this kind of sparks the offense. Walk-offs can do that. So it's exactly probably what you want and what I'm hoping happens.
Right. Do you think this sparks Castellanos moving forward? Like, do you think this could be a turning point? Because I think, obviously, we all hope it is, but I don't know. Like, it is huge, and I think it's big for him to deliver in this way and to get that kind of momentum boost. But I could see this just being a moment and then him kind of going back to normal. So I'm not making that my official prediction. I'm just curious what your thoughts are on whether he can use this as momentum moving forward.
I mean, I definitely think he can because you could kind of see it there in the post-game interview. Like he just looked like he had a weight lifted off his shoulders, like the way he was talking. Like I feel like he was just putting himself under a ton of pressure, and I think this is going to definitely help to relieve that a little bit. So, I mean, obviously, Castellanos being back would be huge for the offense going forward because the top of the lineup has been basically a zero. And if he can get on in front of the guys in the back of the lineup who have been performing, I mean, that'll be exactly what you want. So,
especially with the breakthrough of Brandon Marsh too, combined with Castellanos maybe returning to form. I don't need Castellanos to be honestly any more than he was last year. I think what he was last year, like obviously that's not what we're paying him to do, but that's, there's kind of a lower bar now compared to what we first expected out of him. I think that's fair to say. But if we can get out of him what we got out of him last year, that's perfectly fine with me because I think he was much better last year than he was in 2022. Granted, some of it is a marginal difference, but overall, I thought he had a much better season. He had 100 RBIs last year, if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yeah, like maybe 99 or something like that. But the big thing last year was the power was back. So
yes, that's correct.
That was the big thing for him.
Yeah, and he's always been a guy like I've seen him before he was a Philly. The reason I was so excited when we got him was that he went gap to gap. And honestly, I thought he had some better swings today leading up to that at bat too. I think even the single he got, like, yeah, O'Neal Cruz probably should stop that. It's hit hard. He probably should stop it and keep it in the infield. Probably shouldn't let that run score there. But he also scorched it. I mean, it's 98 off the bat. Like, it's not a Schwarber scorch, but it's hit hard enough to where, yeah, you made it a tough play for him. So he's had some better swings as of late. Obviously, he had the RBI single the other day too. So there have been some signs of life there. Similar to how Rojas has had some gradual signs of improvement as we've gotten, further into April. Some people will disagree with that, and I understand why it's not super noticeable. But with Castellanos, it's been a little more noticeable the past couple of days. So, yeah, I mean, I really do think, like you said, you could tell that he felt a weight lifted off his back. I think that's the perfect way to put it. You could just see it in his eyes, see it in his face, and there's something about having a walk-off moment in baseball that's a little bit different, that it can spark something too. And it can cause a rally. I mean, we see it in 2021 when they fired Girardi. They dominate the first game without him, make a statement. Look, we're not going anywhere. We're still very much here to compete. The next game, they win a really close ball game. And then on that Sunday, they battle back. Harper has the grand slam. Bryson Stott has the walk-off 3-run home run. And that sparks them the rest of that season, honestly, that whole series. And I think the walk-off win, capitalizing that weekend, was a big part of that. So having this type of win going into, obviously, or not going into, continuing what's been a lighter part of the schedule for the month of April, that's really important that they do that. Because as we talked about last weekend, Drew, on that road trip, you would have really preferred to get 5 out of 6. They should have probably swept one of those series, the Nationals one preferably. They got 4 out of 6, that's fine. But all this talk about them starting fast, you want to have a higher standard going into this year. So hopefully this is something that can kind of elevate them to a little bit of a higher standard as we move forward in April.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, they wanted to start fast, and I guess comparatively to the last 2 years, they are starting fast. But
absolutely, yeah, that's the craziest thing.
yeah. I mean, like, if they're this good right now and the offense has been as bad as it's been, just think about how good they can be whenever the offense gets going a little bit. And
right.
I mean, no lineup right now is scoring 10 runs every night. I mean, that's just nobody scores a ton of runs at the beginning of the season. I mean, maybe the Braves have, but outside of them, I mean, it's kind of tough going early in the season, and you see some guys not warm up until after the first month or so. So I think, like you said, this first month of the schedule is really, really easy, and it would be good to see them, sneak out 18 wins this month, or, be a couple games above 500 by the end of the month.
Right. Absolutely. So I think we talked about Castellanos enough. Awesome story today. He desperately needed that. And we will monitor how that carries him into the rest of this week, or if it helps him at all. So love to see that. I do want to talk about the leadoff man today, though, because he was really the biggest part of this offense. Kyle Schwarber, man, goes 3 for 3, 2 walks too. So really 5 for 5 on base opportunities, scores a couple times. Obviously the one was an absolute blast to center field right over the wall that juts out. But he hit it to the deepest part of the ballpark, 424 feet. I want to say it was 108 off the bat, on a day where the wind is going left to right too. It's not like it's blowing out, necessarily helping him. So he crushed that baseball. I mean, that was nuked. That's a classic Schwarbomb. Get that offense going early. He set the tone for the entire day, Drew. Very, very pleased with what he did today. And even before today, I felt like his numbers coming into the game didn't really show how well his at-bats were, or how quality his at-bats were to start the season. Obviously, he had some games that weren't the best, and he did cool off a little bit as of late, but he's had a lot more 1 for 3 with a walk and just a single than we've seen from him in his entire Phillies career. He's going to have more singles this year than he has in any year as a Philly, probably.
Yeah, I think he had 2 singles a day as well. I mean, that's
yes. Yeah.
Last year, his home runs and singles were like neck and neck pretty much the whole season. And this year, I think he's got like over 10 singles now, which is like crazy compared to only having 3 home runs. And I think like one thing I'm noticing with him is like he's really shortening up a swing, especially like later in counts. Like he's okay with just poking the ball through the infield. And it's not with him, he has so much power. It's not even like a poke. It's more like a smash right through the infield, and they don't really have any time to get to it. So I mean, I think he's really been a very good player beginning of the season this year compared to especially the last 2 years. He's been really slow to start. So it's good to see.
Absolutely. His 2-strike approach, I think, has been night and day from years past. And granted, I didn't even mind it in years past because it was Schwarber. So I was like, well, there's still the threat of him going yard, even in an 0-2 count. So if he's going to swing at it, and maybe he would still catch changeups, even 0-2 from time to time, and send them out of the park as well. It wasn't like he was just expecting fastball every single time. So I was okay with him taking bigger hacks, but I love what he's doing this year too. Yeah, you're probably going to sacrifice 4 to 5 bombs doing that you got last year, but you're going to gain what we haven't had in the playoffs in years past, the past 2 years when we've cooled off, which is the lack of contact ability when the bats go cold, because it's a lot of swing and miss. And having him set the table like that, I think that makes a big difference. So obviously it's not going to make a difference if the rest of the guys don't also have a similar two-strike approach, because to be honest, I think some of the two-strike approaches on this team are absolutely pitiful in the playoffs, but that's a problem we'll get to later. But for Schwarber, that is a really, really cool thing to see him develop this year, and to have an emphasis on that. I'm really pleased with what he's doing so far right out of the gate.
Yeah, and another guy I'm really impressed with so far out of the gate is Alec Boehm. I mean, he's just been so good. And whenever he comes up in a big spot, it's almost a guarantee he's going to come through. And that's a special kind of player to have batting in the middle of your lineup. So, I mean, as long as he can keep that going, the Phillies are going to be in a good spot this year for sure, because Bryce and Trey are going to get going. They're going to hit around 300. It's going to be dynamite whenever they get going.
Mm-hmm. And obviously part of the reason they intentionally walk Boehm is you get the force out, sure. But at the same time, I think part of it is that Castellanos is behind him. He hasn't been hitting well lately. Boehm has been very good with runners scoring position. And the likelihood is that the highest probability, I guess, there of any outcome is that Boehm makes contact. I would bet on that. I would probably bet the bank on that if I could. He's probably going to make contact there regardless. So you obviously don't really want him up in that situation. And he also ties the game today too. Wasn't even hit super hard. He gets a slider inside, waits on it well. And I think it was 75 off the bat. So it wasn't even hit hard, but he gets the barrel around to it, right? Even if you don't hit the baseball super hard, you get the barrel there, it's going to find places where the defenders are not. And that's what he does in that at bat right there. He gets the run in. And also, he puts the ball in play. There's one out. You can't afford a strikeout there. And that's what Boehm has always done. He's never really struggled with strikeouts, or, obviously he does chase from time to time, but he's going to put the ball in play, which gives you a chance every single time. So Boehm has been really solid to start this year. I don't think he's been he still hasn't really developed that power yet, but I think he kind of is who he is right now. And that's fine. We don't need him to be any more than what we expect out of him. We probably don't. I don't think he's going to be any less than what we expect out of him either. So really feel good about what Boehm is doing right now too. I 100% agree with you there, Drew. Also worked a couple walks today too. He's getting on base. If Boehm's going to walk more, I mean, he's going to be an extremely valuable player, because if he's not chasing as much and he's taking the right pitches and picking up pitches better, I mean, he's going to have a real good year. And that would also be another really good development for the Phillies offense as a whole if he started walking more. Obviously, yes, it was intentional, but still, I think you can definitely see his eye has been better to start this season.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And like you said, it's going to be huge if he can just continue doing what he has done. And I mean, speaking of continuing what you have done, I spoke about it a little bit, but the Phillies bullpen, man, the last few days, they've been so good. And they're going to win you so many baseball games this year, especially when they get Kerkering back and they don't have two long men in there like Pinto and Nelson. I'm not sure which one of those guys is going to end up going down, but
Nelson.
I think Pinto doesn't have options, does he?
His contract just got selected, so I would guess it's probably. I mean, I would guess it'd be easier to send down Nelson out of the two. So yeah, I don't know for sure if he has options or not, but my guess would be that he probably doesn't. Regardless, I'd rather send Nelson down just because I think Pinto, you might have found something there. Whereas with Nelson, it's what you have. You know what he is at this point. He's the same as he's been the past 2 years.
Yep, I agree. And like I said, the bullpen, they're going to win you so many games if they're going to be pitching like this, and that's exactly who they are. They do pitch like this. So, I mean, I think people were overreacting the first week of the season when they weren't playing so well. And
oh my gosh,
I think,
and it was really just the first game for the most part.
Yeah, I mean, outside of the first series, we'll just throw out the first series. Sure. I mean, they've probably been the best bullpen in baseball outside of guys pitching that the long men, whatever, in the blowout games. Yeah. It is what it is. But
and you throw out opening day, and they're probably still top 5 bullpen in baseball right now by the numbers.
Yeah, and they're only going to get better here and tomorrow, probably. I'm assuming. I thought Kerkering was going to get activated today, but apparently he didn't. And yeah, I mean, it would have been big to have him today if we would have had extras, because we wouldn't have had anybody else, I don't think. But other than that, I mean, I have huge expectations for the bullpen this year. They're going to be probably the best in baseball again, like they were last year.
Definitely. Yeah, and it would have been nice. At least it was nice knowing that Brogdon wasn't going to pitch the 10th inning if we went to that, right? So there's at least some comfort there. So we at least saved some trauma there, I guess you could say. Probably not the best word to use, but point being, you get what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
As far as the bullpen goes, man, yeah, Strom comes in and pitches 2 innings. That's what you get out of Strom is he can go that multi-inning outing when you need him to, and we needed it today, especially today. I mean, that saves a couple guys probably for tomorrow too. So that's big. 5 straight strikeouts. That guy was on fire today. The last one looking to 93 fastball, while not at 94 right now. Still deceptive. Still looks very good. So yeah, love to see that from Strom, man. I mean, I think he had a perfect 2 innings, if I'm not mistaken. That is awesome. Soto is fine. He does put some guys on the base paths, but sorry, the Flyers won. I'm a little distracted right now.
All good.
There we go. Flyers win. It's a great day, guys. It's a great day. Flyers are still alive right now. But anyway, yeah, Soto, I mean, he's still up and down. Like, I don't fully trust him, but there's definitely been improvement. I mean, I think you can see
no doubt.
His stuff also looks like it's just been more effective this year. I'm not saying it. Again, we both have talked about this, Drew. Like, his stuff at times still looked really good last year, but this year it's actually missing bats like it's supposed to. Like, the slider looks pretty nasty at times, pretty filthy. And the fastball looks like it's like guys are not seeing it as well, and it's getting on them a little bit late. So that's what you want to see out of him, even if he is going to have his outings where he puts some guys on base from time to time. Yeah, and then Alvarado, Hoffman, I mean, I'll let you talk about them. Like, I don't have anything to say on them. They're awesome. Like, they did what they were supposed to do.
Yeah, those are the 2 biggest boys in the bullpen, and there's a reason for it because they came in today and they just pretty much dominated.
Yeah.
I mean, those poor Pirates hitters had no chance, and you put Hoffman up against the bottom of the order. I mean, their 9 hitter, I don't know who it was, but he actually put up a pretty good fight considering who he was going against. And
Williams, was it Williams?
Yeah, I'm not even sure, but
okay.
I mean, it was good to see Hoffman come in and just attack guys because what he did the other day there, having that bad outing. I mean, it's good to see him put that behind him. And I mean, those 2 guys, what can you really say? I mean, they're the best.
Right. And obviously with Hoffman, after the blown save outing, he has the one where he does get the save against St. Louis. But the weather was weird. Like, guys, we really didn't get to see guys at their full potential in that game. It was hard to evaluate the pitcher specifically. They were throwing slower. Obviously, we know now Nola, we'll talk about that. Nola was throwing purposefully below his velocity, which that I know you sent that in the chat, Drew, and I think Matt Gelb reported that, if I'm not mistaken. So point being, though, we didn't get to really see Hoffman. Like, that's not going to be who Hoffman is, right? Today's a windy day. It's a little chilly, but there's not the rain. The conditions were really weird in St. Louis in that game. I don't know how to describe it. It was very misty, I guess you could say, at least from what it looked like on TV. But those 2 guys did their job. Before we talk about Turnbull, one more thing I want to say on the Phillies lineup is, I got a couple things. Stubbs just missed a home run. If the wind's not blowing the way it is, he probably gets it out. So, I mean, he was right. It was right there. Probably the closest Stubbs is going to get when he doesn't hit a home run to a home run. But I mean, look, if that's his most productive AB of the day, that's what you're expecting out of him, right? You're not expecting anything crazy. So shout out to Garrett Stubbs. He was fine today. That's just, I don't know if I would have batted him 7th, even with the other guys being bench guys in the lineup too. Not the best decision in my opinion, but it is what it is. And there you go. Like Drew just put out, Nick Nelson will be sent to AAA. That's the right move. Kirkring will be back. So yeah, that makes all the sense in the world. But Rojas with the bunt hit today too. Beautiful bunt. And I said this in our Discord too. There's 2 outs, yes, but if he gets out, the top of the order is up. It's a little bit different when you're a 9-hitter there. If he gets out, the top of the order is up. And if he gets on base, then you potentially start a rally with 2 outs and you have the top of the order coming up. And that's almost what happened. I mean, Trey also just missed a home run today. Trey's had a number of tough breaks early this season. I honestly am not concerned about him. I think he's been mostly fine. I think he's making quality contact. I think his at-bats have been good. I think he's watching more pitches than he did last year that are outside of the strike zone. So he just missed it. It couldn't have been closer. And he also scorched that double early in the game too. We were seeing Marco Gonzalez well early in the game. Yeah. And I'm really disappointed we didn't get more than a couple runs off of him. They made a lot of hard contact off of him early in that game, and then he kind of settled in, but he's not anything special. So I was a little disappointed in that. But yeah, those are the only other notes I have on the lineup. Harper had a terrible AB right before the walk off. Very uncharacteristic of him, but he's been so close. I mean, he's had a
Yeah.
number of tough breaks as well. I mean, look, he also went 2 for 4 the other day too, and then had a diving catch that was called, but like still a very productive day. And he still had a number of productive games, even in the midst of what feels like him just catching a lot of tough breaks right now. But I don't know. I don't really have anything else in the lineup today. Pache finally got his first hit of the year, which is good. He hasn't got many opportunities. It's hard to get in a rhythm when they're playing Pache as sparingly as they are. That's something I want to talk about too during this pod. But I'm rambling a little bit about the lineup. I want to let you talk about it a little bit too, Drew. But also good for Whit Merrifield, just for morale, I think, to score that game-winning run as well.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, like the guys on the bench, they haven't been real good. I mean, Sosa, he had that one good game, I believe, against the Nationals, and
Yes.
outside of that, the bench really hasn't done anything, and we need them. We need them. I mean, that's just the facts. And we don't have any left-handed hitters off the bench other than Stubbs, and they're not going to use him obviously in a big spot. So, I mean, yeah, you need the guys on the bench to be productive, and so far this year they really haven't been. I mean, it's going to be what it's going to be. But as far as like the regulars go, I mean, you know what you're going to get out of most of those guys, so you just can't stress it too much. They're going to get going.
Right. Yeah. I feel like
I think we lost Hunter for a second.
I got something else to say about Pache. All right, we're good now.
You back?
I'm back.
All right.
Yeah, I'm back now. But I wanted to talk about Pache a little bit too, and kind of discussion about his playing time as well. But I want to flip it back to Turnbull before we kind of get into more general topics outside of this game, because I feel like the Pache one does fall into that. But Turnbull today, I think he was much better than the box score says. I didn't think he was perfect, but I thought the first couple innings he was fine. I mean, it was really just the O'Neill Cruz home run. I didn't even think that was a terrible pitch. I mean, it's on the outside part of the plate. O'Neill Cruz is a really good hitter. He absolutely crushed the baseball too. Like, that was absolutely torched off his bat. That's what O'Neill Cruz does. I mean, he gets the barrel around through a lot of baseballs that maybe aren't even the worst pitches in the world. So I didn't see where JT set or where Garrett Stubbs set up for that one, but the spot itself, where it ended up, was not like the worst location in the world. Yeah, it was more middle, but it was also like on the edge of the strike zone as well. It's just O'Neill Cruz man, it's a great piece of hitting. I mean, he takes it to the opposite field, and he has that type of power to where if he is able to get that type of swing on the baseball, it's going to go a long way. So it's just an unfortunate break. And you also had the Sosa error today too. When was that? I'm honestly forgetting when that happened. I can't hear you right now, Drew.
That was like in the middle innings, I believe, and he just threw the ball errant to the right of Bryce Harper, and
that's right,
went past him.
Yeah, so I was forgetting if that was while Turnbull was in or not. I want to say it was.
Yeah, I think it was.
It was. So that's all. I mean, thankfully, it didn't end up scoring off of that either. But like, as a pitcher, you want to have some security there, and that's also, I mentioned that because there's been a number of defensive issues this week as well, which we'll get into as we revert back to this week. But I thought Turnbull was fine today. I mean, obviously, he wasn't going to do what he did the first two starts every single game. And what you got out of him today, I think, is more what you expected out of him when you signed him. But I had some pretty high hopes for him, but I didn't expect him to pitch as well as he did the other day. I probably expected a little better than what he did today, too, just because he did walk some guys. He didn't have full command of the strike zone, but it's not something I'm like worried about moving forward. Like, I think he just needs to reset and just refocus, and I think he'll be fine. He, even with the walks, he limited damage most of the time. 4 innings, 3 runs, you keep him in the game. And Topper made the right decision pulling him when he did, in my opinion.
Yeah, his defense helped him out pretty much the entire game except for that Sosa error. So, I mean, that's good to see. And like you said, I'm not worried about him. I mean, he's your 5th starter. He's really he's your 6th starter if you really think about it. But I mean, yeah, you just take the good with the bad when you have a 5th starter or 6th starter like that. So, yeah, I mean, just kind of move on from that and go out there and do your thing next game.
Sure. Yeah, that's really all I got on the game today, Drew. I don't have much else to say. Number of pass balls, wild pitches today. Aroldis, I mean, he looked pretty much the same the last 2 days. The difference was he was in a tighter ball game today, though, so he couldn't really afford to do what he did yesterday. and he did it again. So he is either in full command when he's on the mound, or he just can't find the strike zone to save his life. And I mean, it's night and day with him. Like, he reminds me of Alvarado when he first came here, but Aroldis has been around so long. Like, maybe I don't know, maybe he's just getting up there, but he looks pretty wild right now. So that was just a general observation I had from the past 2 days, but I don't have anything else to say on today's game, to be honest. I think that covers all my thoughts.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't really like to bash other teams' young players, but Henry Davis looks terrible back there. That guy, he's letting pass ball after pass ball, and I mean, I don't know what he's doing back there, to be honest with you. I thought they had another catcher and they were playing him in the outfield, but maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember. Brian Reynolds is still very good. Like, that should not go. We should note that before we move on. 1 for 1 with 3 walks today. Yeah, you'll take that any day of the week. Shout out to Brian Reynolds. He's very good. And you know what? Shout out to him for signing that extension when they didn't look very good too, because it does seem like they're building something right now. They do have something good going there. They're going to get better as the years go on too. I'm sure in a year or two, they're probably going to strike in free agency for some really good free agent to add to that core. But, probably I would guess Rowdy Tellez isn't the future first baseman there. So there's that too. But also, we silenced Connor Joe today. He's been on some sort of unreal insanity run to start the year. I don't know what that's about, but 0 for 4 today. So hopefully we start the downfall. But anyway, That's just the Pirates notes I have. I mean, I don't have anything else to say on them, except also the guy that had in before Contreras at the end there, Hernandez. I mean, if they had kept him in, they were going to lose that game regardless. Like, Roansy was their best chance there, honestly. And Hernandez was just, I mean, he just looked out of sorts in that inning. I mean, as soon as he was in that game and you saw him pitch the first couple of batters, I was like, we're going to win this ball game. There's just no way they're winning this with him in this baseball game right now. So, and that's how it panned out. But anyway, that's all my thoughts on today.
Yeah, I don't have anything else either.
Yeah, so we can kind of flip the conversation to the past week, any general topics as well. I mentioned Pache. I do want to talk about that because we were talking about that in our group chat. Look, I'm not saying for him to start over Rojas. I just think when there's a lefty on the mound, I think playing Pache, I think that's like one of the first guys you should be thinking about when you're thinking about bringing a right-handed bat off the bench. I mean, you could argue with how Witt is playing right now, he's probably currently the best option there because of his defense and what he's going to add there, even if he's not hitting. Granted, you expect Witt to pick it up as the year goes on. Hopefully he figures something out, but he's been really bad to start this year, undeniably. And Pache, he earned his spot in spring training. They kept him around, and you got to give him some more opportunities if he's going to be on the roster, in my opinion, especially when your other guys are not playing well. You had 2 lefties on the mound the past 2 days. My opinion is, with how it's been going lately, especially with Witt, and maybe some of this is hindsight 2020 with how Witt played last night, but he wasn't playing well before last night either. You play Pache in center field and then play 2 of Marsh, Rojas, and Witt. You get 2 of them in the 2 games, but you don't play the same guy every single time. That's my personal opinion. I think Pache still gives you a very good chance to win a baseball game. Any night there's a lefty on the mound, I think he's absolutely an above average major league player in that scenario. I really do. I think he's proven time and time again, he's at the very least a good platoon. Again, I'm not saying he even needs to start over Rojas. Maybe he'll get a look at some point, but I'm just saying, like, they face a number of lefties, and I'm good with, like, Brandon Marsh starting one of those games. I'm fine with that because I do think he needs to get the reps, but if they don't want to start him back-to-back days against a lefty, I get that. You don't want to shatter his confidence. You don't want to play him against one of the guys you think he might struggle more with. That makes sense, but if that's the case, you're not going to play Marsh both days, then I want to see Pache play both days for sure. I think he's earned that at this point. He's been really good defensively. Obviously, he was slipping a little bit out there today. I don't know if it was I don't know what was going on there. Maybe it was his cleats or something else, but still made the catches. I don't know. Like, I'm not going to complain too much about it because over the long haul, I don't think it makes a massive difference, but I don't know. It's a little odd to me. I get you don't want to DFA him, so if the alternative is him not playing much, but he stays around, I'm for that rather than him getting just DFA'd and then you find maybe a good trade for him, maybe not. But I would like to see him play almost every day against lefties at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Rojas, he hasn't shown you a ton of improvement. I mean, he's been a little bit better as of late, but I mean, if the highlight of his games is going to be him getting bunt base hits, I mean, Pache is probably going to give you something better than that. I mean, I just don't know. I don't understand why they're not playing Pache at all. I mean, I think he had 3 at bats going into today, which is just kind of
Literally,
criminal.
yeah. He's not even played. That's the thing.
Yeah, yeah, it's I don't understand it. I mean, Whit Merrifield's been absolutely terrible, and I mean, me and you both were high on Whit going into the season, and I mean, I don't understand why they're just letting him go out there and cost them runs and games all the time. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, and you can still play Whit sparingly too, while still
Definitely.
playing Pache every day in left field, in my opinion, or in center field, in my opinion, against left-handed pitching. That is, you can give Bohm a day off here and there. You can give obviously Stott a day off here and there, and you could use him if there's back-to-back lefties. You want to play him one of those days, or there's a doubleheader or something. Like there's going to be opportunities for Whit to play throughout this year, and there will be opportunities for him to improve upon that. And I get it; he is the more experienced player. I don't know though. I think Pache, again, against left-handed pitching, he has been a really, really valuable player over the past year or so. And granted, it's not the biggest sample size compared to other guys, but I wanted to mention that because I think it is an important conversation with, we're only 2 weeks into the season here, but that's going to be something I think we're going to talk about for some time until there's some sort of change on the roster, whether it's Pache getting moved at some point, whether it's, Rojas getting sent down or something like that. I don't know if either of those will happen, but regardless, there could be some sort of move on the roster that then forces one of Pache, Rojas, Merrifield. One of them is going to play more than the other. I don't think the roster is going to be exactly the same after the trade deadline or the whole year. I don't know. Maybe they all stay on the roster the whole year. That would surprise me since they don't have a left-handed bench bat, but we'll see. It's a possibility. And then I also wanted to talk about one thing I want to say right off the bat too is rotation's been incredible. I mean, the whole season so far. They've done their part. That is not up for debate. On the other side of that, the lineup was awful this past week, Drew. They have been absolutely terrible for pretty much the whole start of the season here. I mean, there's been some bright spots here and there. They've gotten hot for a little bit, but the past week was dreadful. I mean, I don't think we scored more than 5 runs at any point this week. Those were our 2 wins. We had 5 runs. Even today, we only scored 4. Yesterday, we scored 2. Like, it's been a lot of 0s, 1s, 2s, 3s, maybe. Like, it's early in the season, and I'm not saying I'm expecting that to be the trend, but yeah, I mean, you got to be better than they've been with runners scoring position with this type of lineup. There's no excuse for that, especially against Bailey Falter and Marco Gonzalez on back-to-back days. That's just inexcusable, in my opinion.
Yeah, it shouldn't take Kyle Schwarber getting on base 5 times for them to score 4 runs against the Pirates. I mean, it's crazy. I mean, and like as far as playing Rojas in the 9-hole, it's fine if the whole lineup's going okay and they're playing like themselves because you can hide him a little bit and like the 1 out doesn't make a huge difference. But like whenever they're doing what they're doing right now, like Rojas gets out and then there's like 4 automatic outs right behind him. And it's brutal because the guys at the bottom of the lineup like have been playing pretty well, and then there's just automatic outs coming up right behind them, and you need the top of the lineup to play well, and that's mainly who's been kind of hurting them because outside of Castellanos, the bottom of the lineup's been pretty productive. Outside of Rojas, obviously, but you kind of expect nothing from him at this point.
No, the top of the lineup has been a big issue to start this year. And I like even Schwarber, he did have a little bit of a cold stretch for a couple of games there, 4 or 5, I would say. Even with that though, he hasn't been the guy I've been upset with. It's just the main guys that we know will get going at some point. But when you're having, I think the way I'm trying to say it is like Turner, Harper, JT, like all these guys. JT, not really. He's been really good to start the season. Like Turner, Harper, Castellanos, especially. Obviously, Castellanos is a special case because he's been especially bad. But those types of guys, like even when they're cold, you need them to not be ice cold, if that makes sense. You need them to at least do a little bit during their slumps, right? Make contact here and there. And when they've been cold so far this season, it's just been like the offense, like the rest of the offense, it's contagious, right? The rest of them can't do anything if those guys aren't being threats in the lineup. Again, like I'll say this for the 10th time already, like in the past 2 minutes. I'm not saying that it's a trend. They're going to be fine, in my opinion. I still think there's been a lot of good signs of life from Turner and Harper. I think they've had good moments this year too, especially Harper. Castellanos today, it happened today finally, but you need more from them even when they're not on their A game. That's that has to be the case when you have the caliber of pitchers that even just put aside Fulton Gonzalez the past couple days. The Cardinals pitchers are not that special, and you made them look pretty special this past week.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, those guys have to be better, and they have to give you at least something. And I mean, there's really nothing to add outside of that, to be honest with you. And I mean, like Bryce, he can't give you that kind of at bat in the bottom of the ninth inning today. I don't know what he was doing, but he looked like he was up there blindfolded.
That was disgusting. I mean, that the first pitch he swung at, I was like, yep, that's how the side B is going to go, unfortunately. And I still thought we were going to win even after that, because I was like, well, yeah, Bohm coming up, and one of these guys has got to make contact. Obviously, when Castellanos came up, I was a little bit concerned when he walked to the plate, but he got it done. But point being, yeah, that was an awful at bat. Any other things you wanted to mention from the past week, Drew, that you noticed? I'm sure there's more, but those are the things off of the top of my head that I wanted to bring up.
I mean, outside of the pitching, I mean, like, there's really nothing else to say because the offense hasn't done anything. But I mean, overall, the defense has actually been pretty good for us, luckily. So, I mean, it's been nice. I mean, Trey had that slip the other night or whatever. But outside of that, I mean, we haven't had too many blunders in the field. And that's really all you need whenever your pitching staff's pitching as well as they are.
Mm-hmm. Christopher Sanchez, before I compliment him on the way he battled, 2 errors, dude.
Yeah.
This is going back to NLCS game 4. Yes, correct. It was that game. He didn't know how many outs there were, and he throws over to first base, and that ends up costing us a run. So I love Christopher Sanchez. He is one of my favorite Philadelphia Phillies right now. Dude, like, you got to feel your position better than you've been doing the past, I guess it would be 4 or 5 starts going back to that last NLCS start too. But, man, that's frustrating. That's the only other thing I would say on Sanchez, other than he did battle. Like, he didn't have his best stuff the other night. From what I saw, the highlights I watched, and stuff I got to watch on MLB Film Room, I think that I missed that game live, but he's been really solid to start the season. Like, hasn't looked as dominant as he was last year, but you don't expect that right off the bat, for one, and you also don't need him to be as good as he was last year. He was pretty special last year. I certainly think there's potential for him to replicate some stuff he did last year too, but it's a full season. He's going to have some starts like he has so far, but even then, he comes out pretty much unscathed, right? I think he goes 6 innings flat, and then 1 earned run, if I'm not mistaken. So, and he really wasn't that bad, to be honest. So, I'm still pretty confident in Sanchez, and again, it just goes to show like how well-rounded this rotation is. And Suarez, man, he just continues to do his thing night in and night out. He's been real good for us. He pitched the first game of this series, if I'm not mistaken, on Thursday night. I think that was the one he pitched, correct? Yeah, he did. He got the win in that one. Yeah, and honestly, like, the bullpens, like you said, there's not really anything new from the last time we talked about the bullpen. They've been great. Junior Marte did finally give up a run. That was bound to happen. I'm not really super concerned about that, because I think he's looked really good to start this year, and it was just one of those things like, all right, when is this going to happen? And now I don't know what I don't know what the saying is, but it's in the past now. I think that's where I was going with that. Like, now you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's like, all right, let me just focus on the rest of the year now. I'm not on some scoreless streak anymore. Everyone was hyping that up, and he's a depth pitcher, right? Like, he's your 5th, 6th guy out of the bullpen max. If other guys get hurt, he'll get bumped up, but he's a guy, like, he's going to take those high leverage spots when you're playing the A's or the Nationals or the Rockies or some of those teams in the regular season, where you think you can probably still get by with him in that spot because his stuff is just that nasty. And he'll also take the high leverage spots when, well, in some of those games, he's going to be saving the other guys, but also just in general, when other guys aren't available, or when you need to keep them available for another day, he's going to take those spots. And I think he's going to be more effective at that this year than he was last year. He had his moments last year, but still wasn't really precise. And he's got the splitter with him this year. The slider's working better. The sinker has obviously always been a dirty pitch too. It's just going to be about being more consistent with him and being able to find the zone every single game and being able to hit his spots more. I don't need him to be exactly where the glove is, but he needs to be around there, even with as good a stuff as he has, if that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, I mean, all you got to do is be in the zone, and he's done that mostly so far this year, and it was good to see. I believe he was on the mound whenever Witt had that terrible error, whenever he didn't catch that ball.
Yes, that doesn't help.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, when you're a reliever and you're on a scoreless streak like that, honestly, like, no matter what, even if you're not pitching well, you kind of need to, like, as I would say, like drive without a rear view mirror. Like just forget about the past and just focus on the present. I mean, because you can't when you're a reliever, you got to pitch 2 days in a row. You can't be like down on yourself because of what happened the day before. So
Right.
it's definitely important to just go out there and attack it day by day for guys like him.
Sure, absolutely. We can get a few of these comments here too. I totally forgot about that. But thank you guys so much for watching. I apologize we haven't gotten to you guys yet. But Nerio, all the way from Italy, as always, really appreciate you. Says, besides the wasted opportunities, it was a nice ninth inning. Yeah, that pretty much sums it up there. And like Star Wars said, Schwarber had a game. He's up to 260 on the year right now, 259 to be exact. So good for him, man. And we will see. I mean, maybe we'll see if Ethan's prediction pans out well. I know Short Guy in our Discord said earlier today that it was the comeback of Nick Castellanos after that RBI single. And then the ninth inning happens, and here we are. So we'll see if Short Guy's prediction is correct. Welcome in. Finally, like you said, you save some hair for, we were talking about Matt Strom, I think, when he said that too. So shout out Matt Strom. And yeah, the Strider thing, it is official now, Drew. I'm sure you saw, I think all of us in the chat saw that he is officially out for the season. I would imagine beyond this season too. So obviously wish him well, but that does change the way the Phillies are probably going to go about the deadline a little bit and their chances at the NL East when we're talking about the Phillies specifically. But obviously, first and foremost, do wish him well. Hope he is recovering well because you want to see the best of the best compete. And you want to see them out on the mound every single day.
Yeah, I mean, if we get to the playoffs and we play the Braves again and we beat them, it's going to feel like it has kind of like an asterisk beside it because they don't have their best pitcher. So, I mean,
and we already beat them 10 times at their best. So no big deal.
Yeah, true. Nothing off our backs. But I mean, and for a fact that Sale, he's not going to pitch a full season. So they're really going to be testing their pitching depth here whenever.
It is true. I think I'm still here. Maybe I'm going. I think we lost Drew. Can you guys still hear me? Or if anyone's in here, comment. Let me know. I'm pretty sure I'm still live right now, but we don't have Drew at the moment. That being said, I mean, yeah, the Phillies are probably going to have a better chance in the division now. We'll see if that happens or not. A lot of times to let that play out. Okay, you guys can hear me. Appreciate it, Ian. Sir. Yeah, I don't know what happened to Drew, Ben, but I'll see if he shoots a text. Yeah, classic. All good, Drew. All good. We'll get you back when you're back in here. So that being said, get a few more of these comments here. And again, guys, drop comments. We're not heading out right now. Drop questions, drop comments. Let me know. I'll answer all of them we can get to. But yeah, unfortunate, Ian. Unfortunate. We'll get him back in a minute here shortly, though. Where were we? So Wheeler tomorrow, like you said, Ben. Yeah, I mean, that's a great way to try to finish out the series. We'll see if I said this to Drew before the pod started. We'll see if they can actually get him a series win for once now. I mean, they've lost every game he's been on the mound for, I think, to start this season. Not by Wheeler's own doing, because I think he's had a 1.7, he's got a 1.75 ERA to start this year, and he's just been awesome in every single start. Like I haven't even had to say he's battled. I think he's been very, very awesome in every single start he's had to start the season. So, really unfortunate that they haven't gotten a win with him. Drew, we got you back. Computer's back on. You survived.
Yep. Don't know what happened there, but
but we got you back. So, yeah, like I was just going through Ben's comment here. Wheeler on the mound tomorrow, man. Let's hope that the offense actually backs him up in this one, because we've seen what he's done to start the season. I think we've lost every start he's started, correct? But not by his own doing. I said just a couple minutes ago, I haven't even had to say he's battled this year because he's been that good.
Yeah. I mean, it's been kind of criminal that they haven't won any of his 3 starts, and hopefully they can change that tomorrow. I mean, you need to. I mean, you need to win these games against these teams that aren't very good. So, I mean, yeah, you got to do it. You got to win tomorrow. That's just They burned the bullpen today, so you need Wheeler to be good tomorrow as well. So,
yeah, a nice 7-inning outing with run support. That'd be perfect.
Oh man,
that's what
that'd be like ideal.
But when have we ever gotten run support for any good pitcher on the Phils? Never. So
never. Yeah.
And when Nola was at his best in his Cy Young year, he also really didn't get run support. But it could always be worse. You could be Jacob deGrom pitching on the Mets with a 1.5 ERA or whatever it was and have 9 wins. So you can't complain too much. Shout out the Mets. Also, if I criticize the City Connects, their City Connects are going to be terrible. So that's going to be even funnier to laugh at them wearing those Barney uniforms in the middle of the season when they're just playing like absolute garbage. So
yeah, I wanted to ask you about that actually. What you thought of them on the field yesterday, like with the.
I'm gonna be honest, Drew. Yeah, you go share your opinion first. I mean, I think you can tell where mine's going, but I want to hear what you thought.
Yeah, I know where yours is going, but I mean, you can't say they don't look better with like the yellow batting gloves and yellow like accessories. I mean, that it definitely helps.
I mean, yes, like for me, that's a low bar to set because I already really hate the City Connects. But did they look better with the accessories? Sure, they did. I forget it might have been the gloves. I think Stott's cleats do look good with them too.
Oh man, they're good.
I think Stott's accessories actually look pretty solid, but the uniforms themselves, I still just like could not come around to them even on the field, unfortunately. Yeah, I don't know. I really am trying, Drew. Like I know from our group chat, it probably doesn't seem like that, and that I just want to hate them, but I am trying. But then I'm not gonna lie, them losing along with wearing those uniforms, like it only worsened it for me because now I'm like, oh look, I don't care what they wear as long as they win. But then they go out there and start 0-1 with them. It's not a great start with those jerseys. So that being said, it is what it is. But that was my opinion. I feel like there's one accessory or something. I mean, the jackets are okay. Like, again, I wouldn't really wear it to like rep the Phillies. But if I was getting like a Union jacket, something similar to that, like, yeah, I would wear that. I like navy jackets too. So it's a good color. But it's just not something I would wear to like a Phillies game necessarily. The jackets looked fine. I feel like there was an accessory that I'm leaving out that there was one that I thought actually looked good, but
I thought the armbands that Harper and Bohm wore looked really good.
Okay.
I think Bohm had a yellow one. Bryce had a blue one.
Got it. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm coming around on them, but you like them though?
Yeah. I mean, I think they looked a lot better on the field than they did in the pictures. And I think Christopher Sanchez had a really unique look going with the high socks, the blue high socks. I think that looked good.
Yeah, the blue high socks look fine with the whole uniform. Like again, like I said, I don't like the uniform, but like the mesh from like the light blue into the dark, and then like you have the socks like mesh from it's dark blue and then into light blue if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, like that. That looks fine. Just again, like I said, I don't like it for the Phillies, but it looks like artistically it looks fine to me. I'm not an art major, but that's the best way I can put it. I was going to say something else on them too. I forget, but that was
the matte helmets were really nice. I thought those were super good.
Yeah, the hats and the helmets I love. I mean, I think they look great. It's just yeah. You know my thoughts on it at this point. I don't need to ramble anymore. But yeah, again, like I said, just winning them. That's all I care. Oh yeah, I remember the other thing I was going to say. I really wish they would have done Love in the outfield with the bell instead of Philly. It doesn't look good to me. And a lot of people also, it was close. The vote was very close, but on Twitter, Love won. And on Instagram, I'm pretty sure it was pretty close. So I don't know if they like counted up all the totals from all social media, but that seemed like it seemed a little bit fraudulent to me. I'm just going to be honest. Like, I think it should have been Love out there. A lot of the votes were for that. Anyway, it is what it is.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see that at some point anyways, regardless. Yeah, so it'll be all good.
Yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I'm excited for the Met City Connects to come out because while I don't like ours, those ones will actually, I think, be the very worst one of all of them. So we'll see though. We'll see what reasoning they have for whatever they're doing. I don't actually know why they're doing the purple. That has been rumored, and it seems like that's pretty much confirmed at this point. But I haven't looked into it, so maybe there's good reasoning behind it. I don't know. Jamie, welcome in. Good to see you in here. Love the profile picture, and like you said, Schwarber at a game tonight. A lot of people commenting right now. So love to see that. Little G, welcome in.
Schwarber's huge.
Yep, absolutely. Big Phillies win tonight, Little G. Good to see you in here. And yeah, we were talking about this earlier. Nelson to AAA makes the most sense. Yeah, I mean that was pretty. We were talking about that right before it happened, and I think we both said that Nelson should go down, and then that's what happened right after the game. So
yeah, and I mean, like anytime that either Nelson or Pinto is pitching, there's usually a good chance you're not winning that game anyway. So, or you're winning it by a ton. I mean, There's really no in between. I mean, like last night, I didn't really understand why they used Pinto when they did, but I guess it is what it is. I guess they were saving the bullpen.
Yeah. Yeah, and Marlon, welcome in. Like you said, a win is a win. So love to see that. And yeah, we talked about this a little bit too, beginning of a good Casty run. I think, like you said, Drew said it perfectly. A weight lifted off his back. I don't really have anything else. It looked like that in his post-game interview. I don't have much to add on that. But we'll see. I mean, I'm kind of 50-50 on it. I could see it going either way.
Yeah, I'm right there with you.
Yeah. This is a good question from Sir. Welcome in, Sir. Says, what do you think will happen with Trey? Hunter Brody over at Broads Media says he doesn't have much hope for him.
I don't know how you don't have much hope for him. He was literally like the league MVP in the second half of the season last year. But I mean, yeah, Broads, he always has some takes, like crazy takes. Like he's like a in the moment kind of guy. So I mean, I kind of always took what he said with a grain of salt a little bit. But I mean, yeah, I mean, right now Trey doesn't look good. I'll definitely give him that. But saying that there's no hope for him is kind of crazy to me because he's Trey Turner. I mean, he's been the same player his whole career.
Just missed a home run today again, and he has caught some tough breaks stretch. Like it's not like I don't think he's looked like he did at the start of last year when he was really mentally struggling and on the field struggling. It doesn't look like that to me. Sure, the numbers aren't there yet, but to me, it does. Like his approach at the plate looks better this year, and the contact he's making looks better. And he's also still stolen 39 bases in a row without getting caught. The glove is still an issue. We came into I'll continue to say this. Like when he got signed, I thought the glove would be somewhat of an issue. As much as it was last year, probably not. But I'm not going to sit here and say I'm surprised by what we've seen from Trey's glove to start this season. That's just who he is as a shortstop, unfortunately. Like he's not a great defensive shortstop. Do I think he can be better than he's been? Yes, I do think that he can get to a level to where he's not hurting the team as much defensively. But if that's going to be your reasoning for, I don't listen to Broads, so I don't know if that's his reasoning. But I know some people, it's like that influences how they feel about him at the plate. That can't be my reasoning for him, like not having much hope for him, to be honest. Because as long as you have to have a short-term memory in baseball too. And I think Trey learned that last year. Obviously, it impacted him for a long time, but I think he's had a short-term memory at the plate too. Like I don't see him from at bat to at bat carrying stuff from the last at bat or like a bad at bat or anything like that. Right. And he hasn't had as many bad at bats. So I'm really not concerned about him yet. If we're still talking about his numbers being like this in June, sure. But I don't think we're going to get to that point again. It's been 2 weeks. Like people really forget that. You know, Brett Brady's playing well for the Mets right now. Do I think that's going to continue the whole year? I mean, I don't know. Like we'll see, but he wasn't that good last year for the Mets, and I don't know if their development is all that great. So we'll find out. But I sure hope he doesn't do well because he's on the Mets. But anyway, as another example there. But
yeah, and speaking of the Mets a little bit, like what a bunch of wannabes giving Lindor an ovation. I mean, what a bunch of wannabes. I mean, I hate that. I hate when other teams copy other fan bases. But I think we lost Hunter for a second, but that's all right. Yeah, I mean, like talking about it only being 2 weeks, Lindor won a Silver Slugger last year, and he's batting like below 200. I mean, like we just got to get a grip a little bit here and just wait a couple weeks and see what happens.
Nimmo was also struggling mightily as well to start the season. It happens.
Yeah. I mean, if you're gonna like define an entire season for a player based on 2 weeks, you probably just shouldn't be watching because I mean that's crazy. That's like saying Bryce Harper's not going to hit close to 300 and have a 400 on base this year. I mean, it happens every year. It's like clockwork. Yeah.
If you watch Bryce Harper's first month of the season last year, you would have said, "Oh, power's gone. He's going to be a contactor the rest of his career." No, please stop.
Yeah.
So anyway, not a bash at Broads, but I know there's some people that legitimately do think that way too.
Yeah, and he's not the only one that gets irrational whenever things are going wrong. I mean, everybody does it. So it's not a bash at him at all.
Yeah, and again, it's some of the Eagles fans who recently got back into baseball as soon as the Phillies got good, and it is what it is. But we won't talk about that though. I'll drop that in there every so often, every podcast. Maybe that'll be like our obligatory thing. I'll have to mention that every podcast, slip it in there somehow. But I mean, I'm half joking, but like it that is part of it too.
Yeah.
The nice thing about watching the rebuild Phillies was like you knew, like, when you talk to people who talked about the Phillies, you knew they were really invested. You had to be very invested in the team as a whole and the organization as a whole, even though they sucked, to like keep up with them, because there was no way anyone was following the Phillies casually back then. That just wasn't a thing when they were rebuilding and Cameron Rupp was catching games for them and Tommy Joseph was playing first base. That wasn't happening. Sean O'Sullivan was getting hit in the neck. That was the story of the Phillies season one year. Like that's probably what people remember, to be honest. But anyway, that's another conversation for another time. But it might be a conversation we have for a couple minutes here and there every podcast now. So maybe I'll make that a regular thing. But and yeah, Drew is one of these people too. Jackson Holiday being a bust after 2 days. No,
I did not say that. That's crazy. But yeah, I mean, he did not have a good first couple of days. He had a couple bad defensive plays and didn't really do anything at the plate. But I mean, he's 20 years old. It's crazy for anybody to place any expectations on a kid like that.
Right. Yeah. And also on the 2-week thing, I'll go back to what I said about Connor Joe. Like, are we going to make? Is this guy going to be the MVP this year? Probably not. It's been literally 2 weeks of the season at most. So
yeah, and like Mookie Betts started out scorching hot, and yeah, right. I mean, like, is he going to hit 155 homers this year? Probably not.
Yeah, right. We can go on and on. Like, it's pretty obvious that you shouldn't overreact the first couple of weeks, and unfortunately, like I was talking to someone, it cools off once you get to like June, July, thankfully, because Phillies are the only team you can't treat every single Phillies game as an Eagles game. That's a quote from my buddy. Like, and a lot of people are doing that now. Even some of the non-Eagles fans, like, people do that now because the team is more relevant than they were years back too. And I get it, but there's 162. Like, just because the bullpen blows one here and there, or something, they lose a game they probably should have won. Every team loses games they probably should have won throughout the year. It's just about whether you can win series or not and rebound from it. Every bullpen blows games throughout the year. That's going to happen. Like, the best bullpens in baseball aren't 90 for 90 on every single opportunity, however many opportunities they get every year. Like, they're not 45 for 45 on saves. That doesn't happen. I mean, unless you're Brad Lidge and you just go absolutely that never happens. And even then, like, it wasn't like other guys in the bullpen were perfect for the Phillies that year. They were very good, but it's just the reality of it, especially a bullpen, man. Like, there's so many games for them to blow. And I think people just remember all the blown games we've had before. But if you really look back at it, like, the start of this year included, it's a small sample size, but last year as well, compared to like those years where we did have the worst bullpens, no, they're not blowing games at the same rate that they used to. That is pretty self-explanatory, but people just assume that's the case because of the whole notion that some of these Phillies fans have around the Phillies bullpen. They love to hate on them for no reason. So anyway, that's that was a good rant to have there on the whole 2-week thing.
Yeah, and I want to see anybody that wants to talk crap about the bullpen come back at the end of the season and say what you have to say.
Yeah. I'm sure we'll get someone in. Sorry to cut you off, Drew, but we'll get someone in the live chat of Game 2 of the NLDS after, let's say Alvarado has one bad game or Kerkering has one bad game. We'll get people in here saying, well, look what I told you about the bullpen, and then we'll win the series, and then we'll be like, okay, well, the bullpen got us through the rest of the series. So anyway, it's just how it works. I mean,
every reliever in the bullpen could have a 1.5 ERA, and people would be complaining about them if they blow one game. It's just it's so unrealistic because they pitch so many innings. It's outrageous. Right. Like, think about it. Think about the whole bullpen as one guy, basically, because they pitch like 700 innings every year at least. Yeah. I mean, imagine if a starting pitcher pitched 700 innings. How many runs would they be allowing? Like, it's crazy.
It's not Grover Alexander out there anymore. He's not going to pitch a complete game every single time. Whoever that guy was.
Will White,
the 73 complete games in a year. It's not that. It's not that anymore. But like Jonathan said, you can treat it as an Eagles game. So thank you for the correction there. ... You just have early onset heart issues. Yeah, I mean, that's the perfect way to put it. I mean, that's what's going to happen. But Ian, I am going to get to your question real quick here too. But before we get to that, I just want to say we got 12 people in here. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us after a big walk-off win tonight. Today we got the Discord right at the top of the chat. So if you guys haven't joined, make sure to join that. We're talking Phils in there. You can pick what sports teams from Philly you want to talk about. So if you just want to talk about the Sixers, that's going to be starting up soon for podcasts as well. But we'll be talking about it in the Discord too. And we talk mostly Phillies in there, to be honest. Like, the Phillies chat is the main thing. So if you're here watching after this Phillies win, you want a place to talk Phillies, go join the Discord. And yeah, we're here a lot of post games. We're always going live at least once a series throughout the year. So yeah, we love to talk Phillies with you guys. And anything else you want to say, Drew, before we get back to the comments?
Nope. I think we're good.
Yeah. Well, Ian says, sorry I hopped in late. No worries. No need to apologize. Ian says, how does Turnbull's performance today indicate his future with Taiwan coming back? We kind of answered that. I'm not taking anything like super negative from Turnbull's start today. He was fine in my opinion. Wasn't great. Didn't have his best stuff. But as far as Taiwan goes, I think he's going to get reinserted regardless of how Turnbull performs, unless Turnbull throws like 3 no-hitters in a row, then maybe you don't take him out. But that's a little bit of an exaggeration. But point being, I would like to see Turnbull in that spot instead of Taiwan, but they're paying Taiwan a lot, and they expect him to be an effective inning eater throughout the whole season. So we'll see how he is when he comes back, but I think Taiwan's going to be reinserted. Even if Turnbull pitched well today, I think Taiwan was probably going to be put back in the rotation regardless. So
yeah, and it sounds like Taiwan's not going to be back until the end of the month anyways, so you're going to get a couple more Turnbull starts if you're a big Turnbull guy. So, I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with him after Taiwan comes back. Maybe they'll keep him in the minors and stretch him out completely and let him stay stretched out versus putting him in the bullpen and letting him go back down to 2-inning guy every 4 or 5 days. I mean, it's hard to say what they're going to do.
Mm-hmm. Right. And I actually like this question too, but before we get to this question, I want to mention, I don't know, like this hasn't really been something that's really been trending around the Phillies Twitter or anything like that, but I feel like I did see a person or two say Turnbull could be a deadline piece. I don't want that to happen because if someone goes down, you are screwed probably without him, because who's next up after that? It's Mick Abel's not pitching well right now. He's had a really rough start to the regular season, unfortunately. You have Allard and Max Castillo, Nick Nelson. Like, that's a major drop off from a Spencer Turnbull as your sixth depth guy. He's an amazing. Like, I don't think anyone has a sixth starter like depth guy. Like, look at the Braves. I mean, that's the complete opposite. They couldn't even call Smith Shawver up because he's been so bad to start the season in AAA.
Same with Elder.
Yeah, I don't even know the guy they called up to start the season. I don't even I saw his name the other day. I couldn't tell you who he is. I don't know how he did the other day, but maybe I'm disrespecting him. And
that was the game they lost like 16-4.
There you go. So yeah. Anyway, but
bad day to be a Braves fan.
Yeah, definitely. And the division's quite close right now. Like, usually the Braves kind of get a foothold early and then they go from there and just dominate. But I don't think that's going to happen this year. I think it's going to be pretty close for some time, and we'll see. Maybe the Phils can pull away this year at some point. But regardless, though, I just wanted to say that, as well as I saw some people saying Witt as a trade deadline piece. I don't think that's going to happen either, just because they paid him $8 million to be here and to take reps as well, to give guys days off and to be a valuable bench piece. I would be shocked if that happened. So I just don't think any major league guys who are expected to contribute to the team are going to be deadline pieces. The only one I can see is like maybe Pache if you need to make room and if you get a really good offer for him, but that's a special case too. That's just not the norm. So
yeah, I don't really think there's any, but the Phillies aren't going to be selling any of their contributors. I mean,
nope.
The only time I could ever see them maybe doing something like that would be this coming off season when they know they have Painter coming back and they maybe move a starting pitcher. Yeah. But it's probably not going to be like a valuable starting pitcher. It's not going to be like Chris Sanchez or any of the top 4. I mean, I think if anybody's going to get moved, they're going to dump Taiwan somehow. But I mean, I don't see them moving any contributing players to the MLB roster. It's just, that's crazy.
Not unless you're getting like a superstar player in return where you're packaging that part of a bigger deal, which the Phillies don't have the prospects to land a superstar right now. They need their prospects. So I just wouldn't see any scenario in which that would happen. Again, I've said this before. I think they will get a tier below a star player at the deadline, like a very above average player, a very good player who's maybe not an all-star, but really good and close to it. I don't know who that's going to be. That's my prediction, but yeah, I would be shocked if they dealt any major league players at the deadline this year. I don't know. I mean, that's not, like I said, it's not a popular thought, but I've seen it a couple different places. I just wanted to say that with that question.
Yeah, I just don't see that happening, to be honest with you.
No. Before we get to that question, too, I want to say hi to Sully. Welcome in, Sully. Good to see you in here. Says, solid win. Not much to say. Glad we didn't hit in the 12 double plays today. Yeah, I think we all are.
That was what I was thinking when Castellanos came up there in the 9th inning. Not going to lie.
Could you imagine, like, instead of the walk-off, we sitting there watching a double play. Oh my gosh,
Crazy.
Weird question. Who's a potential trade deadline piece to sell? And I'm glad you acknowledge it is a little bit of a weird question since we are in a spot where we're probably not selling a lot of pieces. But I guess if prospects are allowed to be talked about in this too, I have noticed Crawford's had a couple. I think Crawford has a couple home runs already, so maybe a sign of the power developing a little bit. We'll have to see how the sample size shakes out. We'll have a much better idea of this at the deadline. It's really hard to answer this question right now because even with the prospects, we just haven't seen a lot so far. And I'm not going to sit here after 2 bad McAble starts and say, oh, he's done. He's cooked. Sell him. Like maybe after another 4 or 5, yes, but I'm not going to be overly concerned about him just yet. Am I concerned? Yes, but not enough to like move him at the deadline.
Yeah. Sorry to cut you off or try to cut you off there. But the thing I saw about McAble last night was he had to sit like 30 or 45 minutes in between his first inning and a second inning because the Iron Pigs scored a ton of runs. So that's really hard on a starting pitcher, honestly. And I don't think you can look too much into what happened right after that, but maybe later in the game when he got going again is maybe what you can look at. I don't know exactly what happened, but just an idea.
Yeah, that could be part of it too. Regardless, I don't think I wouldn't see them selling him at the deadline. And if we're talking about him, if people are saying, "Oh, McAble is really cooked, we should sell him at the deadline," well, he's not going to have any value then. So it really doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at that point.
Yeah.
I can't really name prospects who we should sell because a lot of our guys are so young and they're like Kaba and Tate really haven't played much professional ball so far. I'm not trading them when I haven't seen I haven't seen a sample size right now. I want to see what they can do. Again, unless if the Angels came calling for Mike Trout, maybe. But even at that point, that's another conversation because that's a long contract you're then taking on along with the Trey and Bryce contracts. But if Mike Trout does become available, obviously, yes, you entertain that conversation because it's Mike Trout and he could really elevate this offense and he's amazing. So anyway, that's a different conversation, like I said. But I don't know if you had anyone in mind. Again, I think it's a really tough question to answer this early in the season, but that's kind of my answer.
A guy that might have some value that might not be helping the Phillies this year at all might be Griff McGarry just because of what he's shown in the past. But, I mean, like you said, they don't really want to be giving up these guys anyway. So I don't see the Phillies dumping a huge prospect at all this year, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion because they really are valuing their farm system at this point because to be a successful team like the Dodgers or the Braves or anybody like that that's won a World Series recently is they have these young players that come out of the farm system and contribute along with the stars that are making a ton of money. And that's what the Phillies are trying to do right now. And I don't think they want to get rid of any of those guys.
Or they have a plethora of them, which gives them the ability to trade those guys, which we're not there yet. We are developing those guys right now. We're getting better as a farm, but I wouldn't say we've cracked the top half of the league in farm systems just yet. Future's much brighter. Things are trending the correct direction, but we're not there yet to where we can talk about just trading away all these guys just because they're not going to contribute at the major league level. You have to know the right time to trade away these guys too. I think people just think well, he's not going to pitch in the majors this year. He's not going to play in the majors this year. So why not trade him? And it's well, look at a guy like Ohapi. And granted, Ohapi, he might have a bright future too. He was blocked off though at the catcher position. They sold him when he wasn't drafted necessarily super high. And same with Ben Brown, who they traded for David Robertson. And granted, I'm not saying these trades were perfect trades. Granted, we got Brandon Marsh back too. So I did like that in the Ohapi trade. The Robertson trade, I wasn't super on board with. But regardless, they felt like they turned to guys who were not major prospects who had climbed up the ranks that year into really good prospects. And they felt like they were selling them at their peak. So those are different conversations to have because you don't want to sell those guys just because they're not going to contribute. Doesn't mean we want to sell them because if you are going to sell those guys just because they're not going to contribute, you want to do it when they're playing well and when you feel like they've maybe reached their ceiling as a player and you're not projecting them to do much more than what they're doing right now. So, and Ohapi, I'm not saying they didn't expect him to be a major league catcher. It's just he wasn't going to have that opportunity with the Phillies, unfortunately. Ben Brown, I don't know if he's necessarily projected as a great major league pitcher. I know he's made strides in the Cubs system. I haven't kept up with him, but
he's actually in the major leagues now.
There you go. Yeah. So we'll see how he does long-term in the big leagues, but at least with the Phillies, there wasn't really a like room for him to come up to the big leagues as well. And
Yeah.
again, they turned him into something they didn't necessarily see him becoming when they added him to the organization. So
Yeah.
that's kind of what I would say on that too.
Yeah, and like you said, you got to sell these guys when they're pitching or playing at their best. And right now, it's so early in the season. Like Kaba and Tate, like these guys are they're just kids. I mean, we literally have no idea what we have at the end of the day. I mean, we have an idea, but they could come out there and they could turn into like the next Mike Trout, or they could go out there and they could turn into like a terrible player. Like they could be the next Chris Davis. They start out good and then become terrible.
Yeah, I mean, hey, I would take 54 home runs or whatever it was the one year for one of our major league seasons if they suck the rest of it. If they got us a ring, like that's cool. But no. Point being though, I agree with you. And as far as McGarry goes too, it's like him being in the pen as well. Like you could argue you're not selling high on him right now if you think you can get him back to the rotation at some point too. So that's also just to add on to the points we've already made. Like, could I see them trading a top 10 prospect guy? Sure. Top 5 guy? Probably not. And if it's top 10, it's probably towards the back of the top 10. But I think you're going to see them try to get a really talented major league player who could help them this year and be a really, really good contributor. That could help them the rest of the season and especially in the playoffs. I think you're going to try to add a very valuable piece for sure, but I just don't think it's going to be all these big names a lot of people think of. So anyway, and this is going to be a brief answer. You can honestly answer it, Drew. I've talked about this a number of times. We talked about it a number of times. Do you think they could use Walker in the bullpen? Pretty self-explanatory, right?
Yeah. I think it's just no, because his first inning struggles are pretty much you don't want him out there for only one inning if that one inning is going to be the bad inning. And
right.
He hasn't shown you yet that he's got the stuff to pitch out of the bullpen either. I mean, he has that splitter, but that's about his only like above average pitch, I would say.
Yep. Yeah, you can't do that when the velo is an issue in the early innings and when he has a first inning ERA above 7. Not going to work. It's like Turnbull, I think, could be valuable in the bullpen, which it's kind of unfortunate that that's the case because when Walker comes back, he's definitely going to the bullpen, and I would love to see him in the rotation moving forward. But anyway, Sure says I think we need McGarry. I don't see him ever surely starting, I guess. He could be a really nasty weapon out of the pen for the future. Just needs to limit the home run ball. Yeah, he could be a good bullpen guy too. I think like Alex Card, when we talked to him before the season, I actually agree with him. I think the goal is to get him back to the rotation at some point. I don't think it's for him to be a bullpen guy long term. But really, there we go. Okay, I was confused. I didn't know which word you're trying to use, but if he becomes a great bullpen piece, awesome. But I don't think that's the goal. And that was just the same comment. The point being, I don't see them necessarily selling any of like the big prospect names or anyone on the major league roster at the deadline. There's going to be some interesting names available for sure. You know, again, Ryan Helsley, we're going to keep saying that on the pod. Love to have him as a Philadelphia Philly. That'd be really cool. But there's a number of other guys they could get out of the pen too. I really am eyeing up a bullpen guy. I think if they can get an awesome high leverage guy, they've had a really good, well-rounded bullpen the past few years. And I'm not saying that's been an issue for them, especially high leverage guys. But I think if they get one of those big time come into that 9th, 8th inning, shut them down relievers from another team, like Helsley's still throwing, I think 100 right now. So they get a guy like that. Like Clase would be great. I just think the years of control makes it tough. There are club options on there, but I think it makes it tough to trade him, especially he's probably going to warrant much more than a Helsley would. But there's other guys too. You know, like I would love to get one of them. And I think, I don't know, maybe I'm underhyping Helsley's trade value a little bit, probably because his contract is expiring sooner than these other guys. But like a Devin Williams is going to cost more than I'd like to spend on a reliever too, because I forget when he's up exactly, but these are all, like, I feel like Helsley's not necessarily the names those guys are. Like, I don't know how else to explain it, but I don't know. Any deadline thoughts, Drew? I know it's early, but that's, again, I've said that a number of times. That's who I got my eye on right now.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think it might be a reliever. I think it also might be a left-handed bench bat if they get to that point. But
definitely,
I mean, it's hard to say at this point. It's so early in the season. I'm honestly not even thinking about the deadline at this point. We got to see how the injuries or whatever develops with the team. I mean,
that too.
The Phillies have stayed relatively healthy, luckily, as far as pitching goes, especially. So That's exactly what you want to see. And I mean, things could change in an instant, though.
Sure. Yeah, I always got my eye on the deadline, so I'm very excited for it already. But there's a reason that you got to be patient and wait for it to come around because, like Drew said, you got to see what injuries happen, and we also like the Cardinals also have to be bad by the deadline too. We're only 2 weeks in right now, so as much as I want Ryan Helsley, we have to see if they truly do end up being terrible this year.
Yeah.
So, and there's going to be a couple surprise teams that maybe you didn't even consider some of those guys being available, and then those guys become available because those teams aren't good and they want to sell off their expiring contract. So, always something to keep an eye on. But I think we got to everything. Also wanted to say, Jordan, thank you for tuning in too. I know we got to your other comment, but just wanted to say hi. Anything you want to say, Drew, that we didn't get to, didn't address on this pod? It's a longer one, but we haven't talked about it.
Yeah, I think we kind of addressed everything as far as last week is gone. I mean, it's been a pretty good week for the Phils, so good to see. But I mean, other than that, I think we covered everything.
Yeah, things to fix, but wins are wins, and we're about 500. And yeah, we've gone back to 500 a few times, but I'm glad we're not in a spot last year where we started 0-5 and we're digging ourselves out of a hole right away. So we did put ourselves in a little bit of a hole, but overall, while this week wasn't the best offensively, they got in the W column enough times, and that's all that matters. So let's hope we close it out with a win tomorrow. I think that would be a really good exclamation point on this series, and the way this past game went too. I think we could build off of that, and we'll see how they do in tomorrow's day game. Hopefully JT's back too. I think today was a scheduled off day for him, so don't sound the alarms just yet. That dude is tough as nails. Yeah. And that's all I got, Drew. Anything you want to add before we log off here?
Nope. I'm just appreciate everybody being here. You know, it's been a pretty consistent stream. Everybody's been in the chat, so love to see it. Everybody, just enjoy the game tomorrow. You know, we might go live tomorrow depending on what happens. You know, never really know. But yeah, I mean, everybody have a good night.
Yeah, and just to answer this real quick, I think he's probably sticking in the same spot in the lineup. So I wouldn't move Casty up after one day. But Jonathan, thank you too. Thank you solely everyone who was in here, sir. If I missed anyone, I said thank you all to you guys already. So yeah, God bless you guys. We'll talk to you guys next time, and we'll see you guys later. Peace.